Love your work, Rolo. I turned 34 this month. Parents and relatives sometimes pressure me to get married. Oh boy. What would be the right time to marry? That's up to you. Today's show is going to be very anti-marriage, actually. And I don't mean so in the sense that I'm like, if you know anything about me and my take on marriage, I'm not against, clearly I'm not against marriage. I've been married for 28 and a half years. Do I think it's a great institution? Do I think it's a great concept? It's formal. Like I was watching James Sexton on what is it? He's talking to what's that guy's name? The comedian? It's not a no jumper. It's Flagrant 2.
Flagrant.
Yeah, he was on Flagrant 2, and he was talking to those guys, and I'm already familiar with these dudes, from back in the day. But it's funny to see how they kind of squirm when because they're all Akash is married,
Yeah.
and Andrew, what's his name? Andrew
Schultz.
They're both married, right? And they don't want to talk shit about marriage because their wives are watching this stuff. But they gotta put Jim Sexton on there because Jim he's the new hotness. Everybody wants him on their show, right? And good on Jim. But the thing is like everybody dances around like, don't talk about it too much. My wife's gonna hear, oh, so you're against marriage now, are you, Andrew?
Mm-hmm.
And my whole understanding of Jim coming out and talking about this stuff, like he's been on my show. Kelly was on my show before anybody else's, but he and I both agree. I would idealistically love for everybody to get married and have what I have. But one other thing I don't talk about very often is like, how do you have a great, successful marriage? When is the best time to get married? Right. I could tell you when the best time for me was, and that was 28. Right. But for you, that might be something different. Right. Or like, I know what works for me in the gym.
Yep.
I can tell you what works for me. Max OT, Jay Cutler. Thank you. But I can't say that's the way your body is going to respond to that kind of physical stimulus, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that we've corrupted the idea of marriage. In fact, I threw that one video in at the beginning there. I've used this video before. It's a black couple that were there, and the guy's talking to her. And actually, I think it was Fresh who gave me gave me the link to this video. And I think it's interesting because it gets to sort of the heart of what I wanted to talk about today. Or at least part of what I wanted to talk about today is that we have to men have to be elite. And I mentioned this on yesterday's show. Is like marriage is only for elite men. You have to be like this guy, the black guy in the video,
yeah.
Jeremy. He's got to be on his game. He's got to be motivated. He's got to have his abundance. He's got to have money.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to have game. He's got to have muscles. He's got to be in a reasonably good shape. Like you think of all the list of prerequisites that women like demand of a guy that they're going to, settle down with or change their lives for. And the guy has to be pre-approved, right? He has to be, he's got to have all of those things before the woman will change herself into a wife.
Mm.
And she doesn't have to do shit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She does not. And this goes again back to the heart of what like Andrew Wilson was talking when he was like taking on Tommy Lahren, right? What's in it for the guy? You want a guy who's taller than you, makes at least half again as much money as you, which is always very important, right? Because economically attractive. I find it fascinating right now that nobody makes this connection because everybody who says men are not eligible for marriage and they're not eligible bachelors anymore, and it's like, okay, so that's your primary concern when it comes to marriage. It's not love. It's not this idealistic, oh, I love you. Here, it's not this romance. It's not like the, make the little gum wrapper ring and put it on your finger kind of thing. It's not that. How much do you make? Show me your 401k. show me your tax returns from last year, right? Show me your credit report.
Are you a horse worth betting on?
Exactly. And I think that's something that, and I talked about this with Jedediah Bila, actually kind of behind the scenes, but the sort of like the pre-qualifications that a guy has to have, he has to be elite level before women will settle on him. And I thought about this and it reminded me of that video. And so that's why I threw that in there. But also this is not only, think about this, to be elite level, right? $100,000 a year. Like Mike was saying this yesterday on yesterday's show,
Mhm.
to be at what is it, $120,000, that puts you in the top 5% or top
Yeah,
top
5%.
10% of of earners. If you're like at at 300,000, you're in the top 5, right?
Yes.
And yet you have to go like think about what it takes for a guy to have to be taller, in better shape. The amount of effort and the amount of work that goes into becoming elite level, making that being in the top 5% of wage earners. That clearly that's the most important part right now, because that's the first thing anybody talks about when they're talking about men ain't shit today. Women make more money than men. Yeah, they do. I mean, in some states and some economic sectors for sure. Or like who's the wage earner and who's the majority wage earner in the marriage? It's rapidly becoming women more. Who's more educated now as far as like graduation is concerned? Women. Okay, fine. Now if I'm the guy that has a college degree, maybe even advanced degree, I'm taller than you. I got to be taller than you. I've got to be in better shape than all these other guys. I've got to have all these things that Jeremy in the video had in spades. Now I've got to do all that so that I can get you to be a wife. You don't have to be a wife. You don't have to qualify. You don't have like Tommy Lahren was like speechless when Andrew Wilson was talking about this. But it's not even so much what do you bring to the table. It's why am I putting out all this fucking effort?
Yep.
That's the question isn't what do you bring to the table? What do I get in return? What do you mean? What do you get in return? This isn't some transaction. Yes, it is a transaction because the first thing out of your mouth was how much money. Like, let me see your tax returns, right?
Mhm.
Let me see your credit report, right? So I have to be elite level for you to even consider changing yourself to be submissive, to be deferential to my authority. I have to make you a woman of luxury, right? I got to be able to earn enough money so that you don't have to work anymore for you to want to in any way be soft, sweet, nice. Like in that one guy who cheated on his wife. And she's like, she's not better looking than me. She's not skinnier than me. She's not this. And well, so why can't it be me? And the first thing out of his mouth is because she's nice, because she's quiet, because she cares about me, because she like actually shows interest in me. It doesn't tell me I'm stupid. And that shuts her up and crushes the whole scene right there. But that goes back to the heart of what Matt Walsh and what Megyn Kelly have been talking about. Like that's why there's this clash. By the way, there's another video out where Matt Walsh is responding to Megyn Kelly that I might get to today. But when I'm watching this and I'm seeing this unfold and I'm watching all these people talking about marriage and I mean, I was just as I was just saying, I'll get into this in a little bit more detail in a little bit here, but the fact of the matter is you got a guy who becomes elite level, and then he has to also hope that woman is to get into an egalitarian marriage with a woman who wants to pretend like that they're both equals, right? And maybe they are, maybe economically they are, maybe sort of like on the same wavelength, whatever you want to call it. They're equals, but again, as I said before, women cannot look up to a man who is her equal. And that's really the biological evolutionary, basis of all this. Is why Megyn Kelly is wrong, because society, the social construction, all this other stuff that she's mentioning about, like, oh, these guys are brainwashed. They actually believe this stuff. It's like, no, they don't, because society is downstream from biology. Gender identity is downstream from biology. Everything we talk about, everything we think of as some sort of social issue right now, it's downstream from biology. So why would men want to get with thinner, hotter, younger, tighter girls? Because they're reproductively desirable. And so you can complain all you want to about Megyn Kelly. You can complain all you want to about guys who are of your equals, your caliber. They don't want to get with you. They don't want to get with a high-powered boss babe, as Jedediah was saying in there. They don't want to get with a woman who is masculine. Generally speaking, heterosexual men don't want to marry other men. They want to marry women. And so the fact that there's this, like Megyn Kelly, and I can play it again, I suppose. But the thing about Megyn Kelly's video from last week and then just yesterday, I watched it again later on, and I'm like, her entire premise is based on what should be and what ought to be. So high-powered boss babes, alpha females should, in parentheses, should be desirable, but they're not. And she thinks that the reason for that, and by the way, a lot of other women do now, especially now that we have like all this focus on incels and adolescence and all this other shit, and this suddenly there's this endemic, a toxic masculinity, or it's patriarchy, or it's misogyny. It's like, it's not misogyny. It's just simple biological evolutionary fact. It's not because they've been taught, like men have been taught to want to get with a younger woman who's 23 years old, who's a hot piece of ass. They want to get with a hot piece of ass. It's not fucking rocket science, and it has been going on since 200,000 years ago, when we were all living in hunter-gatherer tribes on the sub-Saharan African savannas, right? So, like, T-Rex doesn't want to be fed. T-Rex wants to fucking hunt. And that's part of that whole narrative right there. T-Rex wants to hunt. And what does he hunt? He hunts 23-year-old chippies is what he hunts. He doesn't go for boss babes who look just like, who have the same teeth and the same claws and the same height and everything. They don't, like, T-Rex is not looking for, that's not his prey. That's not what he's after. It's unbelievable that we are in the 21st century. We're almost 25 whole years into the 21st century, and we're still going back to the 20th century and saying, well, it must have been social construction. All these guys have been taught by this endemic patriarchy that they should want a young, hotter, tighter girl. No, they're not. It's evolution. It's the way, it's in our DNA, man. That's how our brains were wired. And it's like a fucking cliff or curb this high. Like, how can you not see that? Especially, she kept saying, oh, I talk to conservative women all the time. And they're very concerned about this. They're concerned about what? This social movement that's teaching these men not to want to get with high-powered bitches like me. And then, of course, she makes it all about her. I told Mike this. I said, there's only so many Megyn Kellys you can tolerate in the world, right? Sorry, Jed. There's only so many of them. Actually, I shouldn't even throw Jed into that. Jed knows her shit now. So as far as to answer your question, at 34, do you want to get married? Like I'll throw this question at you. I'll answer your question with a question. And this is Jim, as I paraphrase Jim Sexton. What problems does marriage solve? Tell me that. Well, I want kids. Okay, you might have a point. I want to have a 2-parent family. Okay. The problem is, as I was saying before, is not only do you have to be an elite level guy to get that woman to want to be married to you, do you understand the risks you're taking by getting into marriage in the first place? Have you read the manual? Have you seen the stipulation? Have you signed the title yet? Have you looked at what you're signing on for? Like, I the undersigned, agree to pay for X, Y, and Z. And I think that's funny is, like, guys, I mean, again, to paraphrase like Rich Cooper, guys love to complicate their lives, and women are right there to help them do it, But the thing is that why, if you are an elite level guy in the first place, why would you want to get married? Why would you want to get married at all? Because you spent all this time and all this energy and focused on yourself and became the best version of yourself as possible. And yet you're going to take all of that. How long did it take you? Till you got to be 34, 36 years old. So 36 years of maybe, okay, since you're 18, whatever, 36 years of your life to become what you are. And you're going to sign up for probably the worst downside risk of a contract you could ever put. You're going to bet all of that on a parachute that opens 50% of the time. Like, why would you do that? Why would you? This is just, I'm not saying marriage, don't do it. I'm not saying marriage isn't a great institution. It used to be. I just don't like the way we do it now, as I said. But, from a practical sense, from a pragmatic sense, you're basically saying this: I am going to build myself out and become the best I can possibly be. And again, I'm following you know, what's his name? Charlie Kirk from TPUSA. You know, you have to be, you know, a self-made man, and you have to make sure that your wife is a woman of leisure and she wants for nothing before you can buy a PS5 and go play Space Marine 2. I'm going to do that stream.
Oh yeah.
And then you've got like, and he's not the only one. You got Ben Shapiro saying the same thing, and whatever you think of Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh has said the same thing too. Like, well, we need men to be men. We need guys to be dominant. We know, like women, like we need to allow them to lead. You know, who they don't have to allow to lead is guys who are already leading, guys who are already made, guys who don't want to have anything to do with boss bitches like them, right? But why would you go and put that kind of effort and have that kind of commitment to your own self-development and then put that on marriage? And here's the funny thing. Women believe they deserve that risk, you taking that risk. That's what they're entitled to, you taking that risk. And God damn it, you better do it before she hits 32. Because mom wants grandkids. Unbelievable.